That's the picture of you. Are you ready to go? Are you ready? Okay, I'll try to act professional. Thank you. This particular course that we're teaching today for the next 3 hours that we're together is the beginning of the course. This is a 12-week course, and if we were taking this originally as a Launching Leaders course in sequence, this would be the beginning and lesson number 6. I'm going to give 2 and combine here 2, and well, 1, 2, and 6 really will be involved in this lesson very quickly, but it would be the way we begin, because we really do the point of the whole Launching Leaders program is to somehow get each of you to the top of the mountain where you're going to be identify with people who know more than we do, have had better experiences than we have, and want us to then somehow learn from that experience without having to take the bad side ourselves, okay? So we begin the course with saying, okay, let's go to the mountaintop. And you know that this course is going to kind of begin with Moses, and he'll be the extreme example. We won't get to him for a few minutes, but we will in a minute. How do you know I didn't want that myself? Oh. So, but to begin with, I think we ought to also have a few ground rules, because some of you haven't been to at least this course of mine, and so I'm going to try to identify a little bit about this. This is my personal constitution. This came from a document that I wrote on September 1st, 1982, 37 years ago, when a meeting such as this, when I was the stake president in California, we had Hiram W. Smith, the great-grandson of Hiram W. Smith, living in our stake, and asked him to come and present to us as a stake what he had been teaching the corporate people all over the world. So he came and spent 2 evenings with us and taught us about how to take control of our life and how to identify with those things that mattered most. And at the end of that course, he asked us each to write a personal constitution, identify a set of values that would be something we wanted to live by. And so I spent the time and copied probably some from his and others, but I spent the time and created a 2-page document which became my personal set of governing values, or my personal constitution. And it became my driving force. And why do we do that? Because he was big on helping people understand how to close the gap. Now, you've seen this before probably, but this hand represents this set of values. And if we can identify what they are, now we know what we're trying to become in life, and then we identify our behavior, and our goal is to try to close that gap on that behavior, to where we become congruent. We become the value. We don't just have it written in our Constitution. We don't just have it as a goal, but we have become the value. When we can do that, we have become congruent, and we will experience the ultimate inner peace. Are you with me? We're trying to close the gap. There's only one person that's ever lived that's done it completely right, without fail, never had to close the gap. He identified what he wanted to be, and he lived in such a way that he became, without flaw, without mistake, he accomplished what he wanted to do and became the Son of God, the atoner of the world, the Savior of all of us, and probably of all the worlds. I mean, I don't know that we've ever been taught that for sure, but I believe that he was the atoner for all the worlds, that he came to one earth and it was ours. Now think about that. And then think about me and you and I. Think about us to be able to be placed on the earth in the last generation or two of time, probably, when we have been preserved and saved to come to this earth at this time. And why? And if we can figure out why and what we're supposed to become in the process, so we can maximize our effort and our help and our ability to help do what we were foreordained to do, then we will have accomplished part of what we were sent here to do. And to do that, we got to figure out what it is we want to become and reduce it to words. and draft something that resembles your set of values so you'll know how, and what you're trying to do is you try to close the gap. Okay, are you with me? Everything? Now, some of you have heard the triquation. We teach the triquation at Franklin as well. And in that triquation, it says that there's three things that are equal. One is our self-esteem. How many would like to have high self-esteem? Everybody raise their hand. Everybody wants to have high self-esteem. Well, to have high self-esteem, the higher your self-esteem will be based on the higher your productivity. If you're a producer in life, you will have high self-esteem. If you're not a producer, you'll have low self-esteem. We have a generation of children who are struggling with low self-esteem. They try to find themselves with video games and other dumb things they're trying to do to try to find some form of happiness, because they aren't raised on a farm, they aren't delivering newspapers, they aren't working in the bakery, they're not raising chickens, and so they're trying to find some way to feel good about themselves without having the farm to do it. We've lost the farm. Now, you haven't lost them all in New Zealand, but in some places we've lost the farm. The chicken farm I raised on is gone. And so now I've got 40 grandkids who are now trying to find a way to feel good about themselves, have high self-esteem. And my job as a grandfather and parent is to teach them how to become a producer so they'll have high self-esteem. Well, that's two. Self-esteem equals productivity equals event control, meaning we got to teach them how to control the events of their life. You each have 1,000, I got it drafted up here. We each have 1,020 minutes every day. We call that our 1,000, that's 17 hours times 60 minutes, okay? If you're awake for 17 hours, you have it like everybody else except Americans tomorrow. They lose one. You lost it last week. Tomorrow, my wife loses an hour. I think, where was I? We all have, across the world, across the planet, we all each have 1,020 minutes every day that the goal is, the ultimate goal, if you want to have high event control, is to control those events to the point that you really do become this ultimate producer, which means you'll have the ultimate in life. You'll feel the best of life about possible. You'll love life. You'll love yourself. You'll love your neighbors. You'll love everybody. Love the church, love the gospel, love your job. Everything's going great. Why? Because you're producing and you can feel it, you know it. And when you're not, then you don't feel it. And those kids that don't feel it end up on drugs and alcohol in some other way, trying to find some way to be happy, because they're not producing. They're not really doing it in life. And so our job is to draft the Constitution, a set of values written in an I am format, I am whatever, and then have a set of goals to go with it to say, I will. What am I going to do today about it to become the value? And then today, what am I going to do? Today, I will do this. And today, I want to just outline how I would hope you do this. We used to take 4 hours to teach you how to do this. Now I can't even get the cap off. We just tell you to make a list. Just make a to-do list. Just make a list of things you want to do today, and then prioritize that list. Call that's an A. That means you got to do it today. That's a B. You don't need to do, but it ought to be done. There's a C. It could just like go on the beach. There's another A. There's another A. There's another B. And there's A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, C1. You now have yourself a daily prioritized task list. You've now taken control of the 1,020 minutes with a list of things you're going to do today if your day is perfect. Now, it's never perfect. The baby cries, the dog barks, the boss changes the life, whatever. So you have interruptions, but quickly, if you have a plan of life and you have interruptions by the phone or whatever it is, you'll get back to this list faster if you have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you'll talk on the phone the rest of the day. You'll play the video game, you'll watch the TV show, whatever it is to waste your time, you'll do it. Why? Because you don't have a plan. So when you get done with the day, your event control was down. You didn't get much done, so you weren't a producer. So you hate the day, and you say, why? What a waste of time. I'm a loser. So you go out for a beer, whatever. And so here's the key to taking control of those 1,020 minutes. And now watch my hand. When these events I'm doing today are controlled by what I want to become tomorrow, I will experience inner peace. I'll be loving life. Okay? Is that you with me? Everybody happy? Anybody mad? We okay? There's the key to being able to take control to become a producer. So we then created a course, beginning with this one and ending with that one today, that will help us learn how to become better producers in life, taking control of the events of our life. What's the triquation again? What's over here? Self-esteem equals productivity equals event control. Remember that. Now, my job today, in the next 2 hours that we got left, my job today is to teach you something, educate you, and to help do it in a way that will entertain or edify you, and then do it in a way that will empower you. When you walk out of one of those two doors in a few minutes, you need to be empowered to do what I'm going to ask you to do. If I don't accomplish that, I wasted your time, because most training doesn't work. Most training is a waste. It lasts for a few minutes or a few hours at most, and then it's gone. If it doesn't empower you, it really hasn't been worth your time being there. To really make this work, you need to take notes. You need to share those. You need to review those notes in a day or so. And you need to share those notes with somebody else. If you do those three things, your retention will go from being 22% if you just come and listen, to 46.6% if you take good notes, 67.3%. I make these numbers up as I go. 67% if you'll review those notes, and 92.8% if you share them with somebody. Now, that's scientific stuff. Okay, so memorize those numbers. Okay. The point is, you need to do your part, and if I do mine, we'll walk out that door a different person, and we'll be empowered to become somebody who will not only have been motivated to draft yourself a constitution, but you'll start to learn how to close that gap on living it. And let's begin now with this first lesson that we take everybody to the mountain with somebody special. I'm going to draw you a picture, and I am an incredible artist. This pen comes off. All artists do this when they draw. They always pinky out here, deep breath, and then they go to the board. And I'm going to draw you a picture of a chapter in the scriptures, and I want you to identify the chapter. It will be obvious from my picture. Okay, you will get it automatically. Only an idiot wouldn't get this. It's a joke, okay? Here we go. I rest my case. Is that about as good as it gets? What's the chapter? What's the lesson we're trying to hear a room to talk about? What's the name of the lesson? Guess who it's about? Moses on the mountain. Moses went to the mountain, and who came to him? God came to him. How old was Moses? About 80, we think. He's older than I am. What has he been doing for the past 35 years? He's been herding sheep. He's been herding sheep. He's been a good member of the church, sits on the back row of church, pays 8% tithing. Occasionally does some good things and trying to be a good guy. But for some reason, at the age of 80, I wish this story was something I could tell you. He went at 35 or 45 or 55. How old are you, Ben? At 27. I wish he would have gone at 27, because I think the same thing would have happened at 27 that happened at 80. But the problem is Moses didn't go till he was 80. He should have gone earlier, I think, and that's Ritchie 1:5. No scripture on that verse. But he should have gone earlier, and this story would have been even a better story. But it's a great story as it is. He gets to the mountain, and God immediately comes to him and sits him down in an easy chair from R.C. Willey and says, hey, let me show you a video. And turns on a whole movie. And the whole movie is the story of this world and its creation, beginning to the end, even past our day, right up to the end. And Moses watched it. And he said he greatly marveled and wondered. Would you just stand up where you are and turn around? Turn around. I'm Moses. This is God. Okay. I want you to think about this a minute. Stand straight and tall and powerful. That's it. You know. Moses said that he greatly marveled and wondered as he watched the video. Now, I could spend a lot of time in quizzing you on what he marveled and wondered about, and you'd tell me all kinds of things about the movie and the world and people and everything. But the bottom line is what really changed the world that day, what really was the thing that Moses saw that changed him the most. What did he really see? Besides the movie, what did he see? God. And what did he notice about God? Oh, man, he learned that in primary. He learned that in primary, in Genesis chapter 1. He had read that in the good book when he was a kid. God created man in his own image. In the image of him created he them. Male and female created he them. And now he's saying to himself, what in the world is he showing me this video for? Is he trying to brag? Does God need to boast? Absurd. So what's he trying to show him? He's trying to say, Moses, son of my son, Moses, my son, and that what does he use? Moses, my son, I have made you to be like me. This is what I can do with my life. What are you doing with yours? Have you taken a Launching Leaders course? And have you decided what you're going to do with it? And Moses, God, you can sit down now. Thank you. Moses saw his potential on that mountain that day. And that's my point of this class. And all that we try to teach is to say, let's go to the mountain with Moses, first of all, and say, what is it that we can see is our potential? What did God make us to do? And what are we doing with our life? And how many of us are living a life of mediocrity, living far below our potential? And he's trying to say to us in that chapter, you know what, where's that chapter supposed to be? Not in the Pearl of Great Price. That's only you Mormons have that book. Where's it supposed to be? In the book of Exodus, isn't it? And it is there in one verse. It said, God spoke to Moses face to face as a man speaketh with his friend. That ought to be clear enough for everybody in the world to understand who God is and who Moses was. And yet there's 1,000 Christian churches. 999 of them have no idea what we just talked about. Even though it's in that verse, but it says in verse 41 of the Pearl of Great Price, I think, that Satan made sure that chapter was left out of the book of Exodus. He did not want the world to know that because it would make his job very, very hard. If they didn't have to rely on the Mormon missionaries to teach it, if it was obvious to every Christian that who God is and what he's made of and what he's done with his life and what he expects of us, if that was obvious to us because we had the Pearl of Great Price, chapter 1 in our book of Exodus, then our missionary wouldn't even have to go out. They just had to stand at the font and wait to be baptizing people. But they do have to go out because there's enough confusion in Exodus about that experience that nobody understands it. And yet there it is now restored to us in a Pearl of Great Price, and our missionaries can now share with the world that God made me to be like him. And he gave me every bit of potential that I can have. Someday I can do what he does. If only I can close the gap on my life and behavior. If only I can identify what I want to be and close the gap on my behavior, I can become like God and create worlds of my own. Isn't that an incredible story? Why would any kid, anybody on the planet Earth who could understand that would sell his birthright for marijuana or some other dumb deal he's going to do with his life or her life? And all we have to do is be willing and able to somehow identify how we're going to change our life with it and to help our children do the same thing. Help our kids and our friends we teach and our ministering people and our missionary friends and everyone in the world to know what the family of Abraham is out there trying to do to help people understand what we just saw. That's how we start the course. And that's how we say, now each week we're going to go to the mountain with somebody new. We're going to go to the mountain next week with David B. Haight. And David B. Haight was my mission president. David B. Haight changed my life, and he told me how to do it. He told me the secret of success and happiness. Now, would you like to know what the secret of happiness is from a man who became an apostle and taught great truth? Would you like to know that? I have an hour course to teach it. I got to teach it in 30 seconds. Let me just tell you quickly the 6 steps of the formula for success and happiness. 1 is get up early. I've never met a person in my life that was successful that wasn't an early riser. Never. I have BYU students that challenge me. Returned missionaries sometimes will say to me, Brother Ritchie, I'm a night person. And I say to them, that's your problem. Don't blame me for that. I've read the book. I've had an apostle tell me how to do it, and I believe him, and I believe the book says, it keeps saying in the Old Testament, early the next morning, early the next morning, early the next morning, early the next morning. Abraham and his son, early the next morning. David Haight said that. Jim, get up early. 2, work hard. There's no free lunch. We were kicked out of the Garden of Eden for a reason. We got to go to work. 3, get your education. Get all the training you can get. How do you do that? Go to school. How else do you do it? Read the book. Read good books. Read biographies. Read stories of successful people. David Haight said, read success stories. You'll learn more by reading a good book than you might go into school. Identify mentors in your life. Identify people who know how to do something better than you do, and then go copy them and watch them and read from them and ask them questions. You want to learn how to give a great talk? Watch Dieter Uchtdorf give a great talk. Watch Jeff Holland give a great talk. Watch half a dozen other people. And I won't get off on my tangent. I've already told some of you this. Why do we have our kids stand up there and give boring talks all the time? I mean, they give boring talks, most of them. I mean, can you think about it? They have an example like Dieter Uchtdorf, and all they can do is say, I like his talk. What did he do? He told a story. Maybe I should tell a story. It worked. I told a story. I summarized the doctrine. I read them one scripture that taught what Heavenly Father wanted me to do with that story. I asked them to live it. I promised them it would work, and I bore testimony. And they liked my talk. Mama, they liked my talk today. And I didn't read one word of it. You know, take the time to learn how to give a talk. Teach your kids how to do that. And all it is, and that's the same point I'm trying to say, is that we just watch people who are better at things than we are and copy them and learn from them. And I have no idea where I am in this talk. I've lost my place. Where am I going with this? That's the 4. Get up early, work hard, get your education. 4, find your oil. Now, what does that mean? It's a J. Paul Getty term, but it really becomes very important. Find your oil means that find your niche, find your talent, find the area where you're really good at something. Everybody on this planet, I believe, this is Ritchie 1 in 10, okay? I believe everybody on this planet has been given at least one talent that you could be better than anybody else on the planet Earth with, if you could find it and identify it. And it would probably be hidden somewhere in your patriarchal blessing, the secret of how to find it. But there's probably 1 or 2 or 10 things you can do really, really, really well. If you just find the time to read the right books, talk to the right people, go to the right classes, go to the right school, and somehow discover what it is that you need to do to find your oil. Because if you find your oil, then number 5, You go make your mark. Go be good at it. Become really good at something. Become the best at something if possible. Make your mark. Now, those 5 things, David Haight said, will make you successful in life in any world, in any country, in any nationality, under any income. You can start with that and do those 5 steps, and you will become better than most people in your environment, and you will excel if you only can find those 5 steps. But he said, he warned me one day, and before I got to California in 1977, he told me, but those 5 steps will probably also destroy you. Remember, there's 6 steps. Those 5 steps will probably destroy you. Because he said, when you become successful and you have the ability to buy more toys and more things and more stuff, and you're better than your neighbor at doing some of this stuff, and you found your oil and you're really good at it, the tendency will be that you'll begin to be, starts with P, prideful. No one will step in and you'll be destroyed by your own pride. So he says, be very careful you don't miss out on step number 6. Because step number 6 is crucial. 5 get you success. 6, he said, get prepared to give back. Get prepared to give back. Get prepared to serve others. Get prepared to build the kingdom. Get prepared to use your success to help other people. And he said, if you do that, if you do step number 1 through 5 with the purpose of helping you, you'll begin to be prideful. If you do step number 1 through 5 with the intent to help other people, it will keep you humble enough you won't be destroyed by your own success. Okay? You with me? Any questions? There's the formula. I still have no idea where I am. I've changed this so many times. Okay, you got it? So now we got the purpose of this whole thing. We're going to close the gap. Each week we go up the mountain. 3rd week we went to Steve Covey and we have the 7 habits. And the 4th week we go up the mountain with what I'm going to talk about here in a minute. The 5th week we go up the mountain with somebody else. And peak performance on demand we've talked about. And then we go up the mountain with Captain Moroni and learn how to become a great leader. And then we go up the mountain with Abinadi and Peter and we discover the great secrets of their lives. And as we do that, we finally keep knowing every time somebody's teaching us something that we need to close the gap on. Now let me finish today with one more lesson. That's one of those lessons that I know will be in your constitution. Everybody who drafts this will have in somewhere, it will say one that says, I am financially independent. Now, I didn't say this, but let me back up just a minute. What do you think is my number 1? What's my number 1 value? What's the number 1 thing I wanted to become in 1982 and I still want to become in an I am format? I am like God. That is my number 1 value. I want to be like God, number 1. Number 2, I am a terrific husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather. Am I? No, I'm not, but I want to be, still want to be. It's my number 2 value. Number 3, what is it? I love my neighbors myself. You're number 3. I'm here in New Zealand, and we're coming back in January again. I've been here before, been in Africa, been everywhere, trying to share the world the formula, because I love you enough that I want to share it with you. And I'm willing to do it for half cost. So meet me at the door. We used to charge $500 for this. Half price today, okay? It's a joke. I'm sharing because you're number 3. You're not as important as my family. You're not as important as becoming like God. But you're number 3. And you're way ahead of number 8, which is becoming financially independent. But somewhere you got to identify those values and then prioritize them. Put them in your list. Now let me go to number 8 in mine and tell you how to become financially independent. Okay, everybody wants to do it. I'm going to tell you how to do it. Read the book. There's the book to start with. How many have read The Richest Man in Babylon? Okay, everybody ought to read that book. It's free on the internet. You can get it, no charge. Get the little book. 1,000 years old. George Clayson. Richest man in Babylon. Teaches you the principles. Doesn't tell you where to invest and how to do it. Just teaches you the principles of how to become financially independent. That's the first part. Read the book. The second key to your success is to follow live the formula. You know, get up early, work hard, live the formula. I'm going to give you a third in a minute, but not till we get to it. Right now, I'm going to go to this point. Here's the lesson. Here's how to do it. After you've read the book, and I hope you read it between now and midnight. It's a joke. Tomorrow morning, I want you to do something if you haven't already gotten one, and I'll get to that in a minute. This is the secret of how to make it work. It all begins with work. David Haight said that. George Clayson says it. Now I'm telling you, there's no free lunch. Anybody in this room who's going to inherit your wealth, I feel sorry for you. It will probably be your downfall. We need to go to work. We need to make our way. We were kicked out of the Garden of Eden for a reason. We had to learn how to, with the sweat of our brow, to go to work. When you go to work, as starting tomorrow morning, guaranteed, you got to raise your hand in a minute to tell me this, you're going to go put a piece of what you earn in this account over here, a brand new savings account if you don't already have an investment account, a savings account, an investment account called your independence account. And he says to pay yourself first. Now, why does that offend you Mormons? Tithes and offerings. Okay, you've now got 89% left then, okay? After you just got paid, and you're now down to 89% after your tithes and offerings, whatever that number is for you. Now he says, pay yourself first out of that which is yours. You're 89%, you're going to take some percent. 1% to 40%, I don't care where it is, depending on your way of life and where you are in life, you're going to take 1% to 40% and put over here in what we're calling your independence account. It'll go into a savings account called cash. Now, a savings account, if it's like in America, pays you nothing. You don't get any money made basically on a savings account. So you can't leave it in there very long because it's not going to make you any growth. It's not going to increase. So you got to have some cash if you're going to begin to start investing into some stuff. Real estate, stocks and bonds, start your own business, franchise, whatever you want to do. Find your oil, find your niche, and then begin to invest in that area where you've got some expertise or take a little risk and try some things. You've got to increase the amount of money you're getting back on what's invested. So you got to put it into something that will help you invest and grow and progress. So now you're accumulating cash. You now get enough cash to go buy your first duplex or your first stock in Amazon, whatever you're going to buy. You now got some shares of stock, business you're going to start, whatever it is, and it makes some money. Makes you some interest, makes you some dividend. What do you do with it? Take the profits, put them back up into here. Now you're getting money coming in from your investment. You're getting money coming in from your work. So you got twice as much money coming in, so you can twice as fast buy some more stock, buy some more real estate, buy some more stuff, buy another franchise, start another business. Whatever it is you're going to do, you keep doing that until the profits keep jumping up into here, and then you go buy more stock. And then finally this grows and grows and grows till finally it is big enough. George Clayson said, you can't ever touch the principle. Now, pray about that a minute. You're saying, Brother Ritchie, you serious? How could this be fun? You never touch the principle. What he means by that is that you keep investing the principle until the day comes when you have enough stuff, enough investments, that the profits, the dividends, or the interest that come in off of these investments will sustain your budget and your savings needs for the rest of your life without ever touching the principle. Are you with me? Anybody not understand that? The goal is to have enough money, profits, dividends, and interest. When it finally reaches that point, you don't keep putting it back up here if you don't want. You start living off of it and coming to New Zealand on a mission. Do something you want to do the rest of your life. Spend your life in giving back, helping other people. But to do that, you got to have either some money or some time or some talent that you can begin to share those things with other people. And the more you have, the more you can share. And the more you share, the happier you are. That's what David Haight said, didn't he? You want to be happy? Give it away. Your time, your talent, or your treasure. Now, meantime, you got to eat. If you've just taken 20% from your budget and put it over here, you've now got yourself a problem because you're used to living on the 20% extra, aren't you? So now you got to cut back some. You got to go into some kind of a plan to cut back on something because you've just stolen 20% of your income to go into your investment account, whatever the number is. So you got to cut back here, become austere, become frugal, become very thrifty. You don't go out for fish and chips every night anymore. That would be tragic, wouldn't it? That'd be a terrible way to live. But you got to reduce the budget because you're going to now live. Because why are you doing it? Because you want to build this. Now you got to have a savings account. Why? What comes along non-regular? What happens to you? What are some events every year that are non-regular? How about what? Okay, good. Emergency type stuff, Christmas, holidays, vacation, birthdays, all of those things are things that happen once a year or twice a year, and emergency funds, whatever. All the things you got to do. You got to save for those. If you don't save for them, then you got to rob from your budget. And you can't rob from your budget because you're barely living what you ought to be doing. So then you say, I got to take it from here. So then the program fails. You're out of business. Independence account's gone. You've now taken your money and you say, it's too hard to start over. I'm not going to do it because it took me 5 years to get here. Now I'm going to quit. So you quit. The other problem you got to have is hidden in that little wallet is a piece of paper called a what? Credit card. I love credit cards. I love credit cards. They are sweet. But if you're paying a dime interest, if you're paying 10 cents interest on that credit card every month, you're in trouble because this program won't work. You can't be trying to do an investment at an average of 10 or 12% a year and paying 16% on a credit card. So you're in trouble to start with. You gotta, if you're paying any interest, now let me tell you something. I love my credit cards and I've had them for 60 years and I use them, but I've never in 60 years have I ever paid 10 cents interest on a credit card. If I can't pay for that out of my budget, when that comes due the end of the month, I can't buy it. And if I put it on my credit card and can't pay for it and I'm in trouble, I mean, I got to cut that credit card up. It's got to go down the tank because I cannot destroy my future by getting into consumer debt, which is so easy to do if you can't learn to control your dang credit card. Okay? Anybody mad? We okay? Still friends? So, budget, cuts down, savings, start to invest. Will you? Guess what? Those are the two most important words in a missionary's vocabulary. Nothing happens till somebody says, will you? You know that? That's what it says in the book. Missionaries, the two most important words are will you. Will you, starting tomorrow, begin a program either by opening a new account or using an existing one if you've got it set up for this kind of a deal, for investment, stock market, whatever you got it in. Will you begin tomorrow by following this program and have a goal in your constitution and in your goal setting that you're going to become financially independent starting tomorrow by practicing what is taught here? Will you do that? Everybody raise your hand. Raise your hand. You say, I promise. I promise. I better say it out loud. I'd love to hear it. I promise. Come on. Okay. That's good, pretty good. My kids think that's a heresy statement. Let me give you the question. A template sample. Oh, can you get a copy of this? Come up and take a picture of it. Or send me an email and I'll send you a copy of it. I'll give it to you for free. You know, maybe not free, maybe $10. Send me an email and I'll send you a copy or come up and take a picture. Now let me finish with this quick example here. Okay, I said that number one, read the book, right? Number two, live the formula. Get up early, work hard, etc. 3, marry well. You gotta marry somebody who will help you do this. If you aren't together, if your spouse doesn't agree with this and will not live it, and has to have stuff and new things and Chinese restaurant every night, whatever it is, if you can't marry somebody who will help you and identify how we're going to do it together, it will fail, because you can't. This is living very austere. Sometimes it took us 11 years. It took us 11 years of working 16-hour days every day to finally get to the point, believed in David Haight, read the book, and my wife believed in it totally, and she stayed home and raised all these kids, and I went to work to say, I'm going to do what David Haight said to do. And you know what? It worked. But it took a long time, and it was really hard, but you had to be so motivated by it. I'll give you an example. We just bought when we got married, we bought a little $12,000 house. Yeah, you can't buy those today, but I did in 1966, we did. And we had this little house, and now every house needs a couch. This is going to get better in just a minute, brother. It might not. It might not get better, okay? I love that, somebody to do that. I love that line. It's my favorite line. Okay, where was I? We need a couch. We could have taken money out of our independence account and gone and bought a couch, but a couch doesn't appreciate in value. So I can't buy it out of my independence account, can I? I got to buy it out of my savings account or out of my budget. And we hadn't saved for that because we're putting all of our money over in the independence account. So we either got to start saving for a couch and cut our independence account, or do something else. So my wife, talking to my mom and dad, they had an old couch that Brigham Young had brought with him across the plains. That's not true, but it was that old. It was really, really old. It was a piece of junk. Okay, I'm calling junk with a J-U-N-K. It was junk. But my wife is a home economics major, Brigham Young University home economics major, so she knew how to sew. And so she went and got some fabric and covered that couch, made it look like it was an R.C. Willey special, okay, best of the stuff. And she covered it up, and we put it over there in the corner against the wall, and people would walk in our house, and they'd start walking towards that lovely couch. And she'd say, no, no, no. Sit right here. Just look at the couch. Because she knew what? If they went and sat on that couch, it goes right to the floor.